Hello everyone and welcome back to the Gfinity Starcraft Championship here from London, England. I'm Richard Lewis, your host, and we've got an amazing and fresh as a daisy analysis desk for you today. On the end we've got In Control from Evil Geniuses fame. He of course has been celebrating his team winning the International, so he's feeling pretty great. And then next to him,
formerly of Evil Geniuses.
I can't even believe it. We have Stefano, who was also out working for his bar, Meltdown.
Working all night long.
Yeah, working all night long, and as a result, he's very sleepy today. But I will ask you both, how are you feeling?
I feel great. This has been really nice. You know, I understand that in England the weather is usually subpar, but in this beautiful summer day, it's a cool, kind of warm, breezy, beautiful day, and I'm really enjoying it. And it's been a great event, good games. Get to sit next to Stefano and listen to him. I mean, what more can you ask for?
What more can you ask for? And what about you, Stefano? Are you feeling good?
Let's say I feel like in a cloud. It's just...
No, tell him about the text that he said. That's the most amazing.
Okay, this is pretty funny. I probably shouldn't. Don't be mad at me.
It's not bad.
But I don't think it's bad. But I got a text from him this morning, and he was like, do we need to do rehearsal today? I'm like, yeah, we do rehearsal every day. I said, just come in a little bit later, though. And he went, thank you. Right now, every second counts. It's like, yep, every second does. Anyway, what we'll do is...
that is such a Stefano thing to say. It's so amazing.
We'll give you the schedule. This is what you've got to look forward to today. It should be a quick day for Stefano's sake because we've got a best-of-5 semi-finals, obviously 2 of those, followed by a best-of-7 grand final. There aren't any Terrans left, so we might be able to rattle through this one. Who knows? And, of course, the prize pool, this is what the players have been competing for here. You can see the champion is going to get $5,000 on the line. The runner-up, $2,500, and those that finish in 3rd and 4th place and bomb out in the semis, they still get a grand each, $1,000 for their trouble. So,
which means all 4 of these guys are guaranteed at least $1,000.
Yeah, exactly. Not bad at all. Worth getting out of bed for.
Yeah.
Stefano also, that was another thing he asked. He said, if I sit here with my sunglasses on, do I still get paid? Yeah, you do, mate, you do.
Good.
You've turned it. Once you've signed that paper.
Savvy businessman, this one.
Yeah, so I can just like lay back and just wait for it to happen to finish?
No. You will have to say the occasional thing. I'll poke you when it's time.
I mean, you could just fall asleep. It would just probably be your last event, I think.
No. People would like it. It's kind of different.
You think so?
Yeah,
that's what
hell of a gamble. That'd be a pretty big gamble to take.
That would go viral, I think.
I can do that, I think.
But
to lose right
you want to give it a shot?
Okay.
Well, I mean, Red Eye is probably.
Red Eye's got the international to think about, so I think he can get away with it. But just while we're talking about people crashing out, let's have a look at the groups yesterday. You can see what happened here. Some of the big names that are missing, conspicuous by their absence. You can see Bunny and Marine Lord are 2 such names, and Jaedong and Bling, the hometown hero. Lots of talk that this might be Bling's last event. You can also see that First and Departure and Snoot and True, they finished top of the groups and go through into the semis. We'll show you what that all means now. You can have a look at the bracket, and there we go. So it's First versus True in that first semi-final, followed by Snoot, the great foreign hope, versus Departure. A bit of a surprise package here, although Jeff would say not entirely shocking. Has been doing well in Pro League lately in that other semi-final before we move on to the grand final. So, guys, I will say, obviously, Snoot, the standout foreigner, doing what he does. He's been taking down Koreans. Just some quick thoughts about, whether he can sort of go all the way.
Well, absolutely. I mean, he's made it this far. He's shown to be strong in ZVZ. True. 4-0 Jaedong yesterday, which, say what you want about Jaedong's form, but that's actually quite the feat. Jaedong's very good in ZVZ. And Snoot was able to top the guy that made him look bad. So, I mean, again, that kind of math doesn't necessarily apply in StarCraft, but it's worth mentioning that that's pretty impressive. And now he'll face Departure. We've only seen Departure's ZVT, so I'm kind of curious as to where his ZVZ stance is. But it's going to be fun. And it is 3 Zergs and a single Protoss, which is, not the dream Final Four, but I like the individual storylines that we have going on here. Snoot, once again, the only foreigner, going up against kind of that. Whenever someone says like faceless Korean, that came up a couple times. It's true, but it's also overly mean. I think like Departure is playing in Pro League. He's come out for a couple ace matches. Like he's an impressive player. I just guess in this foreigner scene in WCS and stuff like that, we don't see him very often, so he becomes a little bit faceless.
I think that's been the thing, isn't it? WCS sort of starts to dominate the landscape in the West a little bit, so perhaps we're not as savvy about other talents out there. Just a quick question before we get into the predictions, Stefano. I promise I'll make it quick for you.
No, I'm
Well,
good.
obviously, you were a legendary player in your time. How do you compare Snoot to you?
I think Snoot is like for me. I wasn't a hard worker, but when I look at Snoot, he's someone who will always think about how to improve his game and always gets to the next level, and that's something you have to respect. Something like for foreigners, I'd say we're not really as hardworking as Korean. Like we don't have that kind of routine of you play and you have a schedule and you follow it and stuff. And I think Snoot is kind of like that, and that can be really helpful. And hard work will pay at some point, I think. Maybe that's today.
You see,
They
it's
say
like riding a bike.
They say EG did nothing for him. I mean, look at that answer. That was a hell of a response.
He doesn't even know what part of his brain that came from. It just beamed out. Anyway, let's have a look at the predictions. I wish we weren't doing this bit, actually. Go on. Do you want to make the photo, joke about the photo where it looks like I'm pooping again, Jeff? Do you want
I think it's still standing.
Do you want to do that? Are we
Looks like you were caught pooping is what it is, though. Not necessarily that you are pooping.
I'm always caught pooping
Richard,
at my
he's
age. And then next, look at that, Stefano. That's what you could look like if you just stopped drinking.
I can work on it. Like right now, I can make this smile. I can make it.
Okay, well, we'll try that out. But anyway, you can see that Stefano picked True. In control, showing his EG colours. He went for Jaedong. And then obviously the casters down there, they all went for True as well. We won't talk too much about my pick. I was bold.
Well, I mean, everyone picked True except for you and me, and we were both wrong. So
Yep.
They could be too. We'll see.
Okay, and then we go into the dark horses. Now, I did a cheat pick here. I know this isn't really a dark horse. I probably should have switched it, actually, thinking about it. But they called me at like 1 a.m. Richard, we need your predictions. I'm blaming those guys. I'm blaming Gfinity for my idiocy.
Yeah, it's their fault.
Good save. You can see, so I've gone for True. Stefano and In Control both went for Marine Lord, who had a pretty disappointing day at the office, if we're being real about it. And the casters, again, it's almost as if they were more well-informed than the analysis desk in a lot of ways. They went for Departure as their dark horse, which so far, that's proven to be a quite sage pick.
It's funny that they all have the same choice, the casters.
Yeah,
for the winners,
it's like they're one, like a hive mind.
Yeah.
You know, like just, what are you going to say? Oh, God, I need the work. I got to sound clever as well. It's all right. Once you get to analysis desk stage, you can just say anything. Like, it doesn't matter. You get them brought back. Casters, though, they have to work really hard. So, it sucks to be them in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it doesn't suck for you guys because you can win some prizes this weekend. We've got a competition. It's a great segue, that is. We got some prizes for you to win this weekend. All you need to do is go over to gfinity.net, register an account there if you haven't already, and then you can go to the gfinity.net/competition. And my understanding is you got the opportunity to win a SteelSeries headset and a few copies of the new Mortal Kombat game, Mortal Kombat 10. Which Jeff has actually played.
It's a great game. It actually is it's a really good game. A lot of times when they're like, we'll give away free video games, it's like Mario Kart 64, and you're like, that is a great game. But,
already got that one. Already got that one. What about you? Do you ever played a fighting game?
I play a bit, but I just press 2 buttons. I try to always go for the move, which is easy to make and takes a lot of time. Like, I was playing that Street Fighter.
Marvel vs. Capcom, I think.
Yeah, and I had I press 1 button, I go and low, and the guy would just jump and throw the other.
I think it's the fighting game equivalent of roaches.
Yeah, I mean, basically, yeah.
I was going to say,
it's kind of a common theme here.
SR. 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 And that's it.
That's
See
it.
what happens.
Can't go wrong. How to play all games the Stefano way.
Yeah.
So getting back to the tournament in hand, obviously we're still sort of on for our. My dark horse can still come in, so I'm feeling pretty good. But based on what we saw yesterday, have we got a clear idea in our heads about who we think is going to win this tournament, or is this still really up in the air?
Knowing that the last games were ZVZs, like you can't really judge so much performance on a ZVZ. Like the other matchups are completely different. So like being good in ZVZ doesn't make you good in any other matchup. I think it's like very specific.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to say. Like I honestly don't know. I would say. Yeah, no, I don't know. I can't say.
First looked really dominant, but he played, I think it was just PVT, if I remember correctly. I don't think he won a PVZ. And in those PVTs, it was DTs and it was a blank stalker timing attack, which not to take too much away from him, but that was it was very timing oriented, which is kind of the way he plays.
Yeah, like we didn't see the core play from me. It was just basic strategy. It worked really well, and that's it. But we didn't see like the late games, mid games, and try to. Yeah.
So I'll be interested to see him challenge here. I do think True and him are probably the 2 strongest players in the tournament. I mean, this Final Four is pretty close. Like, I do think Snoot deserves definitely to be up there with First and True. He's beaten both of them, actually. In fact, he might have a winning record against True. So it's really nice up there, and I'm going to be interested for that. And then, of course, in ZVZ, I think this is the matchup that a lot of people – it's interesting because I think it's burnt into people's head how bad ZVZ used to be. It used to be just like gelatinous balls of roaches just absolutely colliding at minute 13, and it was like there was no micro. They were like stutter stepping into each other, and they're just like bumping heads and spraying acid. And the commentators tried to make it exciting. But now I find it to be a lot more elegant. There's different openings. There are some timing attacks. You can be more cheesy and aggressive. Obviously, it does still fall back on that roach style quite a bit, but I believe it was Penguin hyping up the Muta play of True yesterday. So if True is able to get past First, we'll definitely see some Mutas in ZVZ, which is actually a really fun dynamic. So I think there's some cool storylines going into today.
Cool. Well, let's take a look at one of those. So obviously, True versus First. In that first semifinal I'm going to bring you today, we can have a look at their sort of head-to-head. And this, as you can see, that First is victorious in 75% of his matches versus True. So he has a very good record there. And you can see some of the matches that were played. They haven't played in a while. That's got to be said. The last game was DreamHack Winter. So just some thoughts. I mean, statistics obviously can be a little bit misleading, but First does have that sort of, excellent record.
To me, though, this is actually like, I think you started to touch on something. Like, I really appreciate those graphics. It is worth mentioning, and certainly there is something to be said for, like, when a player wins 75% of the matches, that can sometimes get into your head and kind of be like, oh, God, this guy is the one that knocked me out of these terms. Like, these players know it vaguely, probably not super specifically, but for me in StarCraft, it is actually super relevant when these stats happen. Like, we have players that transform themselves. Like, maybe they don't go on and win 10 tournaments because that's very rare to happen, but the difference between a guy who's training in Korea for a Pro League match with a Pro League team versus a guy who is literally like living in a assorted pro gamer house in Europe where he was training on the European ladder is night and day a lot of times. And that's just an example, but that kind of transformation does happen all the time. So it's always interesting to me when I see stats where it's like, well, it spans all the way back to 2011, and then from 2011 to 2014, he won 14-5. Those are dominating stats. Unfortunately for him, the guy he's playing against, aged 2 years, was in like a hibernation tank in Korea and has become an absolute god. Like, those numbers mean nothing.
And plus as well, you've got to remember, of course, this is an organic game. Starcraft changes, the meta changes.
Maps, exactly.
You can have wins at a time when a particular meta is strong, and that just happens to be your play style. I mean, this is why a lot of the Zerg players that sort of came along, patch Zergs, we've all heard that, right? So you're absolutely right. I think statistics can be a little bit misleading, but equally there is this sort of psychological factor, isn't there?
I like that the guys spent time getting these graphics.
I know,
awesome.
we're just like, just about,
let's tear them apart.
Yeah, we're sorry about that, Ben. He put loads of hard work into these, and they are good. Now these are the more telling stats, I think. These are the important ones that we had on screen there, which of course is True, and just his sort of overall record. You can see what matchups he favors there on your screen versus Protoss, versus Terran, and versus Zerg. And it's quite interesting that the stats that we've got there doesn't have a great record against Zerg in recent times.
I like to, we've heard this a few times. The ZVZ matchup is one that's like Stefano's kind of been talking about all weekend. It's different. And that's actually kind of a mirror matchup. We've had TVT snipers, you've had PvP guys. That one's a little bit less so, but the point is it's like almost a different game when you're playing a mirror matchup. So True, we saw his ZVZ. He looked really impressive earlier. Yep. Now we're going to see him in the ZVP, and here's First. I believe that's First.
Yeah, this is First. Yeah.
And First is a guy that we've seen in the foreigner scene. I mean, I remember back to was it the IGN Pro League that did that? Well, what were they called? They hosted that team match against Team Liquid in San Francisco. It was really cool. Anyways, First was a big part of that. And he's been in and out of the foreigner scene, the Korean scene. He's just been around StarCraft 2 since the very beginning. And it's nice. Here we are in England. We're seeing him play for $5,000 in a match. And again, those transformations have happened. So who knows where his PVZ is at right now.
So just in terms of these two players and their history, I mean, what would we say just in terms of their background gives them that sort of pedigree, if you like? I mean, who has that more sort of polished history? Who is more likely to be a champion elect here?
It's hard to say. I mean, for me, I'm not super deep rooted in the Korean scene, but I would say True is the more recent transfer over from kind of the Kespa background, which is typically speaking the more powerful Korean background. First has been in and out of, again, not necessarily the foreigner scene, I don't want to say that, but he's definitely like been a part of the European WCS scene. He's back in Korea now, training there. So I'm not quite sure who has necessarily the better pedigree in that way. Style-wise, I'm really interested there. Huck was hyping up the Muta play of True a lot, and that's got me really excited. I find Mutas and ZVP really interesting because they are either very, very powerful, they can get shut down very hard, but kind of like the tech switches in and around them is interesting as well. And then on the flip side, First has always been a very timing-oriented Protoss. Not really one to march up to the super macros late game styles. And that in particular with Muta style can make for a lot of base trades. So I'm kind of curious how this is going to pan out. I'm excited.
Any thoughts from you?
Yeah, like as you said, True. I expect to see Mutalisk for him. I don't think like he's gonna commit a lot to it, but I saw him making that like the 6 to 8 Mutalisk. He just goes to the middle line, try to kill everything, stuff like that. And yeah, it makes like the matchup way more interesting when you have someone who can have such different strategies. Because when you think about Snoot, he will be the guy who will always do the Roach Hydra into Vipers. But True is a player who actually can try different kind of strategies early on. And the fact that First is the one who will hit that timing will maybe actually be good for him because it will kind of counter the fact that True will try to be a bit gimmicky.
Yeah, big gimmicky. So we've got the vetoes coming in. Of course, this is an expanded veto to what we've seen on.
Now they have to play.
Yeah, now exactly. Yes, yeah. This is where it gets interesting. So talk me through this, guys, and what the extra maps. You know, because Bridgehead being in there, a little bit surprising.
It's the first time we've seen it in this tournament.
What's surprising is Iron Fortress for True first map.
I mean, definitely not one a Protoss would want.
Like, it's not a Zerg or Protoss map, it's really not something with kind of balance, like it depends on the position a lot. But taking it as the first map, it means like maybe he prepares something for it. Because usually either you open on a map where you feel safe, you just want to test the water in a way, like see what is he going to try to do, your opponent. But Iron Fortress, I think it's like he has something in mind if he picked it as a Zerg.
Probably. It doesn't have any gold bases as I'm searching my brain to make sure I'm not looking like an idiot. I don't think it does. It's a little bit harder to take that third. But it's also not the most zany map. It's not, you know, we've definitely got some other ones in there. Like, you're going to see some weird stuff on Bridgehead. There's a lot of, like, proxy hatches at the back door, that kind of stuff, gold bases. So it's okay. It's not great for Protoss, but it's okay. And then map number 2 is Coda immediately afterwards, which is the standard map. Terraform we saw a ton of yesterday. Yeah. And then even Cactus Valley. That's like the okay 4-player map. Pro gamers tend to not like 4-player maps because you get a lot of randomness there. Like it's not guaranteed cross map, and it can be like the map itself changes when you're in close spawns and stuff like that. So they try to stay away from that. But again, in these best of 5s, you're gonna see some of these different maps.
So I got to nail you down for predictions before we get into the game. So just quickly, I'll start with you, Stefano, because I'm guessing you'll want to end as quickly as possible.
I think True is going to make it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think it's going to be close. I don't think it's going to be one-sided at all. But
so you think a 3-2?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, for True.
I am completely biased, but also hopeful for a non-ZVZ final, so I'm going to say First is going to rampage his way to a final here.
Okay, then. Well, thanks
in the name of Force Fields and Corona Boost.
So thanks a lot for your thoughts, gentlemen. Great start to the day. We'll get you some black coffee and a nice lie down in a cool, dark area. We'll get you through this, Stefano. Don't worry. We've all been there. And thanks to you guys. Obviously, at home, we're now going to go into our casters. It's going to be Penguin and Hook in this first game. Take it away, boys.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the caster's desk here at Gfinity. And I'm Penguin, with me is Huck. And we're getting into our first match of the day. ZVP.
Exciting.
It's going to be very good, I think. It's going to be a really nice match between True and First. Arguably the 2 strongest players left in this tournament. What do you think?
What do you think? You think First is going to win, right?
Yeah.
I think True's going to win.
Okay, so we're switching around. And we're going to check out the maps now, guys. And we get to take a little bit of a closer look at what they actually look like here. We're going to start things off on Iron Fortress, which is going to be True's pick. Coda is going to come up second. That's going to be First's pick. Terraform then afterwards as True's map, and then Cactus Valley and Bridgehead if we get that far.
Kind of surprised by this. I feel like Cactus Valley is a pretty strong Protoss map, so I'm surprised we didn't see that earlier. And then at the same time, I always think that Bridgehead is a pretty strong ZVP map. You have like a lot of proxy hatchery builds you can do. There's just a lot of things, like whether it's in the rocks or in the natural or the third base. And True's been known for that as well, and we just haven't seen that, you know, as an early map, which is kind of surprising, just for the like scare factor alone.
Yeah. Now, Burst is kind of interesting to me. I came into the tournament expecting him to be the disappointment of the tournament. I thought he's not been playing a lot. He's not been playing well in Korea necessarily. I don't think he's going to do very well. But yesterday, he impressed me so much that I really think he's got a shot at taking out True. The interesting thing about First is, as we saw in a Legal Lock, he's only got 4 recent games, and I think that takes into account the last 6 months.
Yeah.
4 recent games versus Zerg. That's nothing. We have no idea how he's going to play.
Yeah, it's about equal to my Pro League record altogether. So I don't know. He's a Kespa player. He's coming over. He's been working hard. That's the underlying most important, you know, fact here. And I think he's going to have a decent shot, but I think True's ZVP is just very, very much on point.
Yep, and we are in the map here. Iron Fortress to kick things off, spawning in the bottom left spawn location as our Blue Zerg player for Dead Pixels. It's going to be the one, the only, True. Looking handsome as always. I like the Dead Pixels polo. I think it's really nice.
I don't like polos. And in the top left corner, not sure which player this is, as Jeff would say, but it will be the Kespatera. It is KT's first.
Also in a polo.
Yeah.
You must be having a bad time looking at those player shots.
I don't think it looks extremely professional. I like the old, you know, super clean, full uniforms with like jackets and everything like that. I mean, I know it's hot, but there needs to be like layers. It's
really cold in some of the venues, you know?
Yeah,
like,
most venues it's pretty cold, so you know, they should have, you know, jackets and stuff that they can put on. I really like the EG jacket, and I like the old KT, you know, black and white.
Have you seen Dead Pixels' new t-shirt and shorts?
No.
I'm going to just say that you'd probably like the polo better.
Oh, really? That
so,
bad? No bias, of course, right? No bias.
A little bit. Well, everyone hates the MYI shirt as well. I personally like it, but a lot of people really hate the MYI shirt.
I mean, I'm looking forward, you know, we're going back soon enough into the colder seasons, you know, fall, winter, whatever. And I remember Samsung's like huge white jackets
the parkas
that look like, you know, they're heading to Antarctica. Like, I love those kind of uniforms. I think they look really nice.
You know what we need to go back to? Like the space uniforms from the early Brood War days.
Like, yeah.
Like
Yellow
big-ass
versus
shoulder
boxer.
pads.
Yeah. The old haircuts and everything like that. So True's going to get the scout here. Saw the Nexus. I'm not sure if First actually saw the Overlord. It seems like he
don't think he
didn't. I don't know. I usually always scout horizontally on this map, and now he's scouting vertically, which makes me think maybe he did catch a glimpse of that Overlord.
Anyway, we have a Nexus First out from First, and True going for a very fast 3 hatchery before pool build. Definitely very safe when you scout that Nexus First. And this is gearing up to be a very macro-oriented start to this game. And I'm really keeping my eyes on True because he's done some really cool stuff recently. He's been doing a lot of heavy Zergling plays, mass Zergling all-ins off 3 base, mass 1-1 Zergling upgrade plays into the late game. He's just doing a lot of really cool stuff. And this early gas here kind of lends itself to that style of play. We could see him go for a very early Zergling speed.
Yeah, I mean, off of 3 hatch, I feel like in general it's just safer to always go that gas because 4 gates, 7 gates, 8 gates are all very strong, especially off of Nexus First. There's a lot of chrono boost options you have. In general, though, both players are playing extremely greedy. I mean, Nexus First versus 3 hatch before pool is pretty greedy. Looks like First is going to get this Zealot out immediately. It doesn't look like he wants to be too aggressive. He's just kind of rallying it out to his wall. This is a tough map. There's a lot of really good buffs, like you say, that work well on this map just because of those rocks at the wall. It kind of make it harder to... No, not those ones. But yes, those ones. They make it harder for... you know, to reinforce, to build an extra layer of defense if they do bust that pylon. So, be interesting to see if True goes for anything like that. But thus far, he hasn't thrown on a Roach Horn, so it seems like he's going to play pretty standard.
I also feel like on this map, the third base is so far away for the Protoss player that, especially if you go for an early 3 hatch build like True has, he's going to be able to power his economy so strong that he can do a really solid mid-game timing if he wants to. Lots of Roaches, lots of Lings, maybe even some of that double Roach Warren play that we've seen a little bit in Korea. To just try to get that Tunneling Claws Roaches in, to just make sure that First can secure a third base. and that's definitely right up True's alley. He likes those sort of aggressive plays. First, though, we haven't seen any PvZ from him, but against Bunny, when we casted that yesterday, he looked to play a lot of pressure into macro, but this doesn't really look like macro to me. He's already going up to 5 gates, he's got the probe still over there, and this is going to be a very committed attack out of first here.
Yeah, the Huck-style gateway is going down. It's well hidden. I mean, it's not likely that Overlord's going to get in there and scout it, at least without not, sacrificing it, which is always a risky thing. You want to keep that Overlord, make sure to see any move outs, and so far, first, it's mainly about if you can get a pylon down near the Zerg's base and they don't scout the gateways too early, you're going to be in pretty good shape. And thus far, that probe's done a great job of hiding. It's going to throw down, a more secure pylon than just gradually push towards True's base. This is going to be, a quicker game. I feel like True, for the most part in this matchup, as we both pointed out, he's going to want to get towards Mutalisk, and that's where, the strength in his play really shines. I mean, his Mutalisk play is outstanding. His transitions are great. And it looks like True's going to guess wrong here. He's thrown down these safety spores, whether it's for DTs, whether it's for Oracles, we're not really sure. But it's going to be the strong gateway committal.
He knows now. He's just queued up 26 Zerglings, but it's still a pretty big investment to go into those spores. 32 Zerglings. The biggest thing that's going to need to happen for True is he's going to need to stop this army from snowballing too hard. There's a lot of Stalkers in there which are not that good against the Zerglings. If he can try to jump on that before the Zealots get warped in, perhaps he can make something happen here. But the Spine's not done yet. There are a couple extra Queens moving on over, and there's the warping of Zealots. This is going to be very difficult. This is not like an old school Forge build. He doesn't have +1. It's not going to take, it's still going to take 3 hits from the Zealots to kill the Lings, but it's still going to be a very difficult attack here for True to hold.
Yeah, and I'm very surprised that True's just making Zerglings. I mean, at this point, what First needs to do is just sit near his pylons and just keep reinforcing. If you're going to mass up gateway units, sooner or later, +1 or not, if you have enough Zealots, no matter what, you're going to get great surface area. If you're fighting 1 Zealot to 1 Zergling, you're going to be in great shape. Just cannot get surrounded. You can't get completely torn apart by these Zerglings. So as long as he can keep warping in, he doesn't take too much damage, he's happy. Theoretically, this could go to 200-200. And First wouldn't be that unhappy at all. He just needs to make sure he doesn't get surrounded. So far, so good. The Zealots are getting great surface area. The Zerglings are going to flank, but they're busy attacking pylons, not really surrounding the Stalkers like they should be. He's got great Zealot micro so far. He's taking down these Zerglings, and look, a lot of these Zealots are low, but they're still there. And these 2 Spines, they're going to help out, but there's just nothing to buffer in between them. There's not enough Zerglings on the field, and this is going to snowball out of control. Once he loses these Queens, he's really not going to have any reinforcements to back this up.
True did not see this coming at all. He's trying to get as many emergency Spines up as possible. They're going to die very quickly to those Zealots. True tries to counterattack now, and this might have been a really good idea earlier on to force some Warpins at home, but at this point, it's just too late. Even if he gets in, which he will, just a couple defensive Zealots is going to deal with this. This is not a giant army of Zerglings, but more are coming across. He does need to make sure that he walls off that choke here, and he does. So that's good by First, but he needs to make sure he doesn't take too much damage. I still think he's fine, but True is trying his best to claw his way back here.
Yeah, it looks like First is pretty much just going to win this game. True doesn't really have an option. Even if he busts these walls, he just doesn't have the army ever to go head-to-head with First, and First can always just warp in at home. At the same time, I'm very surprised that First didn't have something at that wall. He didn't wall off. He didn't have at least 1 sentry, 1 Zealot. It doesn't take much to, negate all this. So he's playing a little sloppy. I think True's going to be able to shake this loss off, but this is a loss for sure. He doesn't have any options. I mean, try what you can. At the end of the day, you only have, 10, 20 Zerglings. It's not going to be enough to do anything in this game.
Yeah, I mean, even if he does take out everything as far as economy goes, the army is just unkillable at this point for First. True does not have an economy. True will lose all of his buildings before First doesn't. First, worst case scenario, can even just send some units home and just prevent his own buildings from dying. Not that he's going to need to here.
Yeah, the probes at this point are going to be able to fight this amount of Zerglings. There's only a 9 army supply for True. He only has 9 workers. He's going to flood in with these Zerglings, so this game might go a little bit longer, but at the same time, realistically, True can never win this game.
Yeah, looking at the supplies as well.
Yeah, it's impossible. I'd be willing to bet all of my Nando's certificates, my little vouchers of money against this game, and it wouldn't matter.
Yeah, and True trying to stay in as long as possible. Maybe he's just thinking about the next game, thinking about what do I want to do, because this is also a very, very difficult situation for him as First does take the first game. Because, importantly, this is True's map. This is not First's map pick. True is now down. He needs to win a map on one of First's map picks to at least force it to a game number 5.
Yeah, and like I said, on this map, he goes for the Nexus first. It's very common to do some kind of 4-gate, 6, 7, 8-gate, and that's exactly what First is. And I think it's a pretty good build order for that map. And I think True's just going to, you know, he has to focus. Like you said, he needs to shake off that loss and just say, you know what, it's going to happen. I did my best. I scouted, but it came in too little too late. And at the same time, his control wasn't the best, you know.
No.
He needed a full surround, and he needed a lot earlier, and what he got was, you know, a bunch of Zerglings stacking pylons. He really didn't consolidate his forces as much, and he played greedy. And that's the problem with opening up those Speedling builds is if you don't have a Roach Warren and they do go for a big gateway commitment, as long as they don't get out of position, it's going to be difficult to, you know, defend with just Speedlings.
Yeah, and of course, another very important part about that build is that True just did not see that coming. He had no idea, as was easily noted by the spores that he put down. 3 spores, that's a big investment, especially when every single mineral counts when you're trying to deal with that kind of an all-in push from the Protoss. And True, he doesn't look too upset with this. He looks like he's focusing on the next game. What's he going to do on Coda? And of course, Coda is going to be map number 2. It's the map pick of our Protoss player, but it's also a map that's normal enough and just sort of well-known enough that most Zergs will feel comfortable there as well.
It's the map pick of this tournament, it seems, or every tournament. It looks like, you know, in general that okay, it looks like we're going to be actually going to Banks to see what his predictions for this tournament will be.
First came and he did exactly what he planned to do. 2 Terrans in his group, Bunny and Marine Lord, both foreigners, but both players very capable of pushing him to his limits. But what he went in and did, he'd obviously been practicing very hard. He's got Flash and Ty, 2 of the best Terrans in the world for him to practice against, and it showed. He went 2-0 both times and made light work of it, took top in the group. He knew what he'd come to do. Now, he's going to have to go up against someone like True, sort of player Zerg. I'm sure he's more than capable of doing this, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as it was for him today. True is a really likeable player, very talented. Previously at the Gfinity Spring Masters, he came 3rd to 4th, but True's always been very capable. This time round, we look at what he's done so far in the groups. He's managed to get through by the skin of his teeth. First game of the day though, he took out Jaedong 2-0, nice CVZ, something he looked very comfortable with, but he came up against Snoot, and you think, okay, he was pretty good against Jaedong, but Snoot is another level. He's a very experienced and very well-trained foreign player, where True just couldn't deal with him. So True's got his work cut out for him in this first game. But I would never underestimate True because he's definitely got the potential to kind of go forward and take down First. I think what we're going to see, I reckon it will go all the way. It's going to go to a 3-2. I have to put my money on True right now because very experienced player. He's definitely, he's in a good mood and he feels comfortable. But First is definitely not an opponent that he wants to underestimate.
All right, so giving us a bit of insight there on our 2 players in this match. We're in the lobby here for the second map, so we should be getting ready to go any second now. True, just keeping those wrists stretched, making sure he's not getting any wrist injuries.
Yeah, I feel like most people would count True as the favorite here, but
oh yeah,
it's definitely playing into First's favor, as we've said and we've highlighted many times during this tournament. He just isn't a Korean that's known very well. And, you know, he's going to have a lot of build orders. There's a lot of room to work here, especially because it's a best-of-5 series. It's a lot of games. It's a lot of maps, and we're actually going to take a look at these maps right now. Second map is going to be Coda, and you got to be thinking late game here. Hopefully, as a professional player, you always look at a best-of-5 and you think, all right, Iron Fortress, this is what I'm going to be doing. Coda, next map, and you just have all these plans. You have all these build orders picked for each map, and then even deciding, you know, if I go up 1-0, second map, that could change. You know, it can, depending where you are in the series, you either want to play more macro-oriented or you're going to be willing to take more risk. But both players should be able to, you know, feel kind of confident. You know, as a professional player, if you go into a best-of-5 series, you drop 1 game, it's, you know, it's not that big of a deal. You still have a lot of games to play. Where if it was a best-of-3, obviously you'd be sweating a little bit right now if you're a True, thinking, you know, anything can happen in 1 game. Anybody can drop 1 map.
All right, so we are in the next game, guys. Here on Coda in the top left spawn location, we've got our Zerg player down 1-0. Can he bring it back and tie it up on his opponent's map pick? It's Dead Pixels True.
D-Pix.
D-Pix.
D-Pix. Do you like D-Pix?
The team? Yeah, the players are great.
And in the bottom right, already up to a little sneaky shenanigans. It is our first player up 1-0 from KT first.
So things are getting started very early on, but while we wait for these gateways to come on up, this is a really interesting situation for First to be in, because we talked about this a bit, and the analyst desk kind of focused on this as well, where First is the kind of player who is very timing attack oriented usually. But
this is going to be really bad.
Oh yeah.
This is going to be really bad.
This is going to be... With a drone scout, there's literally no feasible way True loses unless he makes a giant mistake.
Yeah, and it's interesting that actually First is going for this build. I mean, he did see...
It's only one gate.
Yeah, but still... It's not a good thing. You got to commit. He's gonna. I feel like he has to throw up the second gateway. Either way, maybe it's like a forge, a cannon build. I don't know.
Maybe. But you know who does one gate builds a lot is actually Frere. So Ukrainian, or I guess now he's Russian because he lives in Crimea. But he actually changed his flag. He changed his flag to Russia on all the websites. He requested it. Yeah.
So he's making the switch.
Yeah, man. What?
Okay,
no.
So okay, if he hatch blocks,
oh no,
this could be really bad for True. And he wants to go for it. I was gonna say this is such a bad move for First, especially because he knows that True probably scouts a lot, you know, drone first scouts. But at the same time, because he knew that, he sent out the probes and, you know, faked that Nexus first. And now it's absolutely horrible. If True would have just went into the main base, he would have known exactly what he was up against. And now, because he wanted to, wanted to block the natural. It's going to be horrible for him. Maybe he's going to recognize now. He cannot throw down that third hatch. If he blindly throws down that third hatch right now, he's going to lose the game. It looks like he's starting to get a whiff of this. He has to know, but already one Zealot out, second one building. True needs to... Oh, he's already got it in his middle. He gets a great surround, though. He gets a great surround, and this is so bad for First now. He needs to micro his drones. He's already lost 2 drones, and it's okay. That's okay. Losing 2 drones to 1 Zealot, 1 probe, that's pretty good. But at the same time, he canceled his hatcheries, and he has literally nothing.
He has
no spawning pool.
He doesn't assume this at all, and from here, First can just throw up a forge and go into macro, and this is exactly what Frere likes to do. He likes to force an overcommittal, force the Zerg players to think that it's a 2-gate, and then from there you just go on, you macro up. Sure, you take a bit of a macro hit because you've just lost, you've opened up with such an aggressive build, but if they cancel their hatcheries like this, he's going for a proxy hatchery now. This is interesting, but again, there's still no spawning pool, and there's still just 1 Zealot at a time trickling in. This is still doing decent damage.
Yeah, True's doing a great job, to be honest. He's fighting drones versus Zealots. He's trading 2 drones every time so far against 1 Zealot. That's about as good as it gets. You know, you can't hope for better. At the same time, though, the hatchery position as well, you can cannon rush it from the high ground, from inside the Protoss's base. So even if he was planning to evacuate all of his drones, it's never going to work out. And now with 2 Zealots, realistically, even if he gets perfect surface area, these drones are just never going to trade efficiently.
He's losing so much mining time here as well. He gets an engagement on the ramp, which means that they can't get a full surround.
Oh,
a third Zealot.
Bad.
Oh, this could actually be
Even if he
game.
gets a perfect surround, it doesn't matter. 3 Zealots are going to be too much. He's going to lose every single drone here. Looks like True's going to be down 0-2 very quickly in this matchup. He's doing his best. Wow. What a build order from First.
One of those Zealots.
Yeah, now First has got to be very, very confident. And True's, what's going through his head, especially losing 2 games that quickly in a PvZ?
This is the moment. After the first game, you think to yourself, okay,
whatever.
Protoss got a bit of a build order win. I didn't, like, I played bad, but it's okay. It's my warm-up game, first game of the day. But after this game, this is tilting. And then if he goes into that build order tab, which you know he's going to do, and just sees 1 gateway, he's going to be so sad right now, because even had he canceled his hatcheries, he can still try to macro out of there against a single gateway. Get the pool, get a couple lings, and just try to make something happen. He's still behind, but going for that proxy hatchery, what was the idea there?
I mean, when we first got into this, I was like, this is a horrible move in my opinion, because True's a player that always drone scouts. I mean, at least like 80% of the time, especially on a 2-player map. And I thought maybe First was misreading this. Like, he doesn't know who True is. He hasn't watched any of his games, and he just thinks, you know, he triple hatched the first game, so maybe he'll do it another game, and, you know, I'll get a free build order win. But it doesn't. That seems very amateurish, especially for a player of First's, you know, caliber. And he kind of metagamed here a little bit, because he did go for the proxy hatchery, and he timed it perfectly, though. You know, he saw the drone, he knew what timing he was going to scout with that drone, and then he sent probes down, and immediately True sees those probes, and he thinks, oh, this is the time for, you know, a Nexus first. And then he immediately is thinking to throw in that proxy hatchery. To be honest, if I was first, I would have let him. I would have just let him throw down that proxy hatchery and, like, you know, misclicked my probes a little bit and said, you know what,
exactly.
oh, well.
Send the probes down, but let him get it anyway.
Make a, like, slight mistake and let him get that hatchery down. Either way, it worked out beautifully, though. And he did a great job. I mean, he did a few mistakes. I felt like the Zealots could have been more worthwhile if he got into, like, one of those nooks or crannies on the mineral line. But all in all, what an amazing game, and what a beautiful choice on builds.
And now, first, he's defended his map, and of his 2 map picks, Coda and Cactus, these are the 2 maps that, I mean, the Coda is the map that he's more likely to lose on, I would say, versus a Zerg player.
Yes.
So now we're looking at Terraform, a tough map for the Protoss player. It's a good map for True. True did pick this one, but First can really risk anything at this point. He's so far ahead with this. He has 3 chances to close this game out. And if he wants to just try something completely off the walls crazy, this is the time to do it.
Yeah, and that's the problem. You're in a best-of-5 series. You're down 0-2. There's a lot of risky things that Zerg players can do on this map. There's 2 gold bases. You can do proxy hatcheries. True always has that in his arsenal, but especially on this map, you can take either gold base. You can play it, you know, macro-oriented. You could push with spines. But we'll see what True decides to do here, because it's going to be tough either way.
And that very same True is sitting here in the bottom right spawn location of Terraform. He's playing for Dead Pixels. Up against the wall, he is a guy who has made comebacks before, but he's also a player who does feel the pressure getting to him when it gets to something like this, down 2-0. It's going to be tough for him to rally back from this, and his opponent in the top left, he's got to be feeling confident. He's coming in from KT Rolster, one of the best teams in the world. He wants to win this for himself, for his team, to prove to his fans that he's still relevant. It's First.
What an introduction. To prove he's still relevant.
Well, he hasn't done anything in a year.
Wow. Wow. Savagery, Penguin. Savagery. And as soon as I see this pylon, my first thoughts are, okay, he's going for a Forge, which makes a lot of sense on this map. You go Forge. That way, if they do go for those gold bases, or if they go for pretty much any hatch first build, you're going to have an opportunity to cannon rush it. True's going to stick to his guns. He's going to go for this fast drone scout. And I think he's going to commit to, you know, a little bit more thorough of a scout. But seeing that pylon at this wall, you're going to know that, you know, there's no tricky shenanigans. He's just probably going to throw down a Forge.
Now, if you're First... Oh, okay.
Maybe because of the drone?
Maybe. Okay, so if you're First here, you're up 2-0. You know that if you win this series, you're going to have to play another Zerg in the finals. Do you decide to risk something and just not play... It's not your map anyway. Do you just not play one of your planned out builds? Just do something that keeps your builds in your arsenal for the finals? Or do you really want to make sure that this is as secure a win in the semis as possible?
That's actually a very interesting point. I would say as First, I would want to do a build that isn't tailored to the map. So he's already shown that, you know, he's willing to go for a 7-8 gate off of a Nexus first. So that's greed into cheese. And then on the game 2, it was purely cheese. So he's shown that, you know, he has a lot of capability. And obviously it's First. He's a Kespa player. You're expecting no matter what, he can play like a normal macro game at the same time. So already he's shown this very wide range of builds. It would be more about, for me, that I would just go for something that isn't for this map, you know? So, like, in the next series, if he's planning to go Forge on this map, show the gateway. That makes sense. So then, you know, if the guy's actually watching the games, Departure sees this, and let's say he makes it through, he's going to be expecting, you know, the gateway into the Nexus, and then he opens up Forge in that series. So, looks like it's going to be a pretty normal macro game. True's going to scout with a drone. He sees the gate to Next, so he just opens up with the 3 hatchery, and he's actually going to pick off that probe. Always a risky move, you know. You kind of look like a fool if you attack with a bunch of drones and you don't get the probe, but if you do get the probe, it's a demoralizing thing for the Protoss at the same time.
I never like it because it screws up my drone mining, and I have like minor OCD when it comes to my drones.
Oh.
Like, I really want 2-2-2-2-2. Like, like, when it comes to those things, I'll be like really meticulous. I'll have like 2 on every mineral patch. But then I'll just lose because I'm bad. And like, I'm focusing so hard on having my drones mining properly.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I think most people try to focusing it 2 on each, but yeah, I don't OCD over. I would definitely go for the kill. It depends, you know. If I'm aggravated, probably going to go for the kill. And if I'm confident, I'll probably go for the kill too. But if it's like a normal game, I'm not going to risk it, especially against players that are this good.
So I like this out of True, right? Because a lot of the trickery that can come out of first is off double gas. And of course, you can just take that gas at the natural base, but since it wasn't a Nexus first, it's still delayed by a little bit. And this extractor, he's probably going to lose the drone anyway if it's in there and a Zealot comes out. So just invest an extra 25, delay the gas a little bit, maybe throw off the timings of first a little bit. And first is a player that does like his timing attacks. And some players, some Protoss players who focus on that style of play really get thrown off when anything comes in and just throws off the timings at all.
Yeah, I feel like he's gonna pressure these 2 Zealots, this 1 Stalker. I would immediately think I'm gonna try to poke and just see, especially because you know it's the 3 hatch, the late pull, the late gas. It's gonna be a great timing. You know, you're gonna come up. You're not gonna do a ton of damage, but any pressure is good at this point. He's gonna be able to poke this Overlord down. We've actually seen this more and more recently because this ramp does give you enough vision, and this is something Zerg players are gonna have to adapt to. You know, if he gets out a Mothership Core or he just gets a probe, he's gonna send a probe actually, just as I say that. In the meanwhile, he's got these 2 Zealots on the other side of the map that are willing to trade. And look at this. This probe should provide vision. Is he getting a little sloppy here? You need to move that probe just a little bit. There you go. This is something we just saw recently, I want to say in the last week, at Aces Rog, actually. A Terran player did that. They had 2 Marines, and you can always pick up that Overlord, which is not a feature we've seen on many maps. And it seems like Zergs haven't really adapted to that idea.
It really hurts, because a lot of maps nowadays, the last like few seasons, have always had this little area to overlook the natural wall.
You can always, yes, you can always get in there. He actually probably saw that Oracle with the Zergling that did die next to the Nexus. Oracle's trying to hide in. If not, he should have saw it for now. And it looks like he did. He's throwing down 2 spores. He's got 2 more queens coming. And at the same time, it looks like a normal macro build, I would say. That Forge indicates I want to get up my 3rd Nexus, and I want to throw up some cannons there as well. And there's not a heavy gateway committal.
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing with Oracles, I love what First is doing here, and we don't see that many players do it, but it's become more popular. If there's a Spore, if there's Queens, and the drones are being guarded, focus down the Larva. They die in 2 hits. It's so quick to kill those, and those are also very, very important in the early game, of course. And from here, 3rd Nexus should be coming down. Up to 3 gateways does mean that First could go for something like a bit of a sentry poke if he wanted, but with these Oracles, that's going to be the main focus of his aggression. And we have a lot of lings coming out for True.
Which is nice, because First so far hasn't really pushed out. He's actually going to get a good amount of drones here. He's already killed 6, 7, 8. He's going to lose one of those Oracles, a little sloppy, could have microed a little bit better. But this is definitely something that I feel is...
And he sees the lings.
It's like a study thing. I think First definitely knew that True is someone that likes to build a little bit more on top of Queens and not rely so much on Spore. So he did skip that Spore at the 3rd hatchery and paid the price.
Additional gateways coming down, going up to 5. And I think this is a reaction to the Zerglings that we're seeing. But we don't have that many more Zerglings in production. It's just drones now for True. He wants to have map control, and I guess the idea behind the lings is to cancel the 3rd.
Yes.
But with no 3rd base there just yet.
Yes.
First is looking pretty solid, I would say. He's making another Oracle as well to replace the one that died. Interesting idea.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you don't see that 3rd Spore coming up at the 3rd base, and so many Zerglings, you know, no matter what their upgrades are, you're pretty much always going to 2-shot them with Oracles. So it's a good investment. You have a lot of options, and First has been playing this beautifully. You know, in general, you're always going to try to get up that 3rd Nexus as soon as possible and rely on the Oracles to defend. But knowing that True is a player that commits heavily to Speedlings, he just delayed it a little bit. And in the meantime, you know, he's at a decent worker count. He's on 55. He has a cannon. He has better attack. He has upgrades on the way. And True, despite having, you know, 9 more workers, he just doesn't. Oh man. He just doesn't have the tech. He has no upgrades. He's actually droning up heavily. He's got 17 more drones on the way, and he has no real army to speak of. He has a lot of Zerglings, but look at the army supply, 44 to 28.
The question that comes to me now is, will First try to get some damage done? Because True has played exceptionally greedy the last couple minutes. He's up to 75 drones already. True, though, he's in a position where he could go for a 3-base Flankstalker push with sentries. Very standard, very cookie-cutter ZVP. And will True have the infrastructure to deal with that? His upgrades are late. I don't think he has a Hydra. Well, the lair's only halfway done, so he definitely doesn't have a Hydra Den yet. And these Oracles are just still poking and doing more damage. I mean, the worker count's still going to be extremely healthy. True has made so many of them, but it's just really annoying that those Oracles are killing things, seeing everything that's going on. And now, here comes a bit of a push out from First.
Yeah, he's definitely going to go for this +2 Blinkstalker attack. It's, you know, he's moving across the map now, and he doesn't want to take a head-on engage. He just wants to wait, and then by the time he gets to his opponent's base, by the time he gets that pylon, he wants to, you know, then do the engagement. He wants to get, you know, that +2. And already, some clean force fields, picks off a good amount of Zerglings, I want to say about 15 to 20. And he's just banking energy on these Oracles. And look, there's only Zerglings. He's building 11 Roaches. But to be honest, Oracles versus Zerglings, Zealots there, Sentries. He's got a lot of force field potential as well.
This is also not an all-in at all. There's no proxy pylon. There's no reinforcements. He's droning. He's making probes behind this. +2's almost done. He just wants to get as much damage done as possible, and then first he's going to recall out. The spines are not yet done, so he's allowed to do a lot of damage, pick off a lot of these units. The Roaches spawn, and there's the recall. Takes a little more damage than I think he would have liked to. Those spawning Roaches doing quite a bit. But he's killing off so much here at the third. 8 more drones going down. Even more going to go down as well. He's forced the investment into 5 spine crawlers, 1 of which died. The supply is even against a composition that's now starting to be a little bit Roach-centric, which is not a good position for the Zerg.
Yeah, every time those Oracles move in, he loses, you know, 8, 9, 10 drones, and it's just great multitasking from First. Like,
look at the kills on these Oracles.
Yeah, that whole time, you know, the battle's going on, First is microing, True's microing, and then he just sneaks those Oracles off to the side, immediately goes to that third base, and it's the greedy play from True. He's investing in these queens, so he's saying, you know what, I'm going to defend the Oracles because my control is good enough, and I'm going to be able to multitask better than you, but he's not getting that spore at the third base, and he's paid for that over and over again. He finally gets his 1-1 upgrades in, but it's against a Protoss that's already up 2-0, getting 3-0. You're down 3 workers PVZ. That's never the situation you want to be in. And at the same time, your army supply isn't that much higher either.
And he's not going for the kind of Ling Hydra play that we saw Snoot going for against Bling, where Snoot, he was really behind, but he got that great Ling Hydra engage on this kind of an army composition. But this is Ling Roach. It doesn't have the same damage output. It's not quite as strong, and the supply is just way too even right now. 2-2's coming in. The double upgrades are going to be really great if True can keep this game going. He's going to try to deny this gold base, I think, with these Zerglings. A lot of cannons coming on in, but that doesn't deter First from this attack at the front. 1 spine is there. This is going to go down for sure, this gold base, but how much damage can First do with this push? Apparently he's coming home, so
yeah,
not very much.
that was a great move by True to cancel that the fourth base. He just wants to pull First back. He needs to buy time, because if he took a engagement head on there, he was going to lose. Even though he's up supply and he could max out, he just never would have the army. And in the meantime, First, he's going to have +3 soon.
And the Templar Archives coming in as well, and this is really where it becomes very dodgy for the Zerg player. And a great warp and a Zealots here. A lot of damage could come down here for First. Supply is going to really even out after this. The Queen is going to go down. The drone line being thinned out. The Zealots are in a great position. The Stalker's pushing here at the 4th base. Nothing to defend that 4th. And while True is able to cancel the 4th of First will do the same. And that's going to be a bit more of a win for him, I would say. Still more Zealots coming in the main. More and more Warpins. Oh my god, even the Oracle's going to come on in.
As soon as the Spore moves out of the way, like, First is going to steamroll him here. It doesn't look like True's going to hold either push, you know? He could have his whole army at either side. He's going to still trade very poorly. These Zerglings are getting 2 hit by every Zealot. These great force fields coming down, his army being completely sectioned off. He can always recall, and at the same time, in the main base, look at the damage that's being done. These Oracles are absolutely tearing through that mineral line. They might even get that evolution chamber. Look at all the Zerg units begging to get onto the Protoss.
And there's still energy. Look, another wall of force fields comes on in.
Perfect.
As soon as First thinks that he doesn't have enough to actually beat the army, focus down the hatchery, recall out, but there's more and more Warpins coming in the main, more and more damage being done, and there's the recall, and he's still doing damage in the main. Look at the number of Zealots here.
Look at the supply, 120 to 172. I am so impressed by First. First is playing so well. True, somebody that just tore apart Little Bow, you know, 3-0 at Aces Rock a week ago, and already First making it look so easy. He's not even blinking. He's just casually playing very conservative, very calm. The force fields, it wasn't even like he was trying to win that fight in the north. It was just like, have all your units here. I'm fine with it. If you move them, you know, you're going to lose your third base, and at the same time, if you don't, you're going to lose your main. It's just very calculated play, and he's playing super solid.
Got a gold now as well. Gold base on the map here, which means not only is he up by 2 bases, it's also a gold base. This is now True on 2 base. That natural is going to be mining out any minute now. The third base, it was a 3 hatch before pool build. It's also going to be running dry. And what does True have going for him? Pretty much nothing. With this bank, you could say, okay, you know what? He can get the Spire up, he can try to go for a Muta Switch, but he lost his lair. He doesn't have the infrastructure to go for any kind of a comeback play. And the only hope that True has is if First just sits back and lets him get up to that tech again, and it doesn't look like First is going to let him do that.
Yeah, True needs to counterattack, do something, draw the player away, because he fights him no matter what. It doesn't even matter if he won ace, it's going to be a loss for him all day. It looks like True wants the counterattack. He starts positioning his forces in the north, but First is already in his face, and he only has 2 hatcheries up at the moment. He's going to lose both of them if he takes, if he runs around. And at the same time, First already has cannons on the other side of the map. He can warp in. He's not even maxed out. He has 3 cannons alone at his third base here. True's going to do what he can. He's trying to buy time, but First, very conservative play, just says, you know what? I'll recall, defend, and at the same time, I'll leave a few units on the other side of the map just to kill your hatcheries.
And this is looking like it's going to be it for True. GG, well played is called, and First will take our first semifinal 3-0. Incredibly clean play from him in that game. Great decision making with the builds in the other 2 games, and True just gets stomped into the ground. There is no other way to say it.
Yeah, and you see a little bell there. I'm sure True came in and said, good game, well played. First, I don't think, I expected, First to give him a tough game, and I expected True to win that match. It wasn't even close.
I did expect First, but I expected it to be so much closer than that. I thought it was going to be True takes game like 1 or 2 at the very least, and just really, really solid play by First, and I don't think anybody expected him to be this solid coming into this tournament.
Yeah, and more importantly, he hasn't given off too much. We like to talk about players that do the same builds over and over. I harped on that. I picked on Little Bo for sure at Aces Rock, saying, he's a player that just does +2 blink stalker timing, and he's great at it, and he wins game after game, and that speaks to mechanically how great of a player he is. But First showed great mechanics, but more importantly, he showed a lot of different strategies. We saw the first game, he went 7-8 gate off of a greedy build. Game 2, we saw, that proxy gate kind of into, a defensive forge. So it wasn't even an all-in necessarily. And then the third game, it was just like a normal macro solid game. He opened up oracles, added to it, took a third base, went blink stalkers. It was great play, great play.
And we talked about how the other 2 players, Snoot, Departure, definitely watching this match. But as a Zerg player, this is not the kind of match where you watch it and you think to yourself, yeah, I have a good idea about this. I'm confident against this player.
No.
This is the kind of match where you watch it and you're just like,
oh,
well,
shit, yeah,
this is not going to be a fun finals.
Yeah, well, we'll see what the analysts think. Back to you, Richard.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot for that, guys. And we did say it could be a quick day today. And that's the start of what could prove to be a very quick day indeed. Just an absolute masterful performance by First there. Let's talk about how he did it then. So, Jeff, you were watching intently.
Timing attacks. I particularly liked the 1-gate proxy. I liked everything Huck was saying. It was not, at first glance, a particularly good choice for a strategy, but either he got lucky or he knew that when he baited him with the probe to fake the Nexus first down at his natural, that True would then opt for trying to hatch block it. That was like a moment of absolute stunning beauty, because it was like, yeah, if he scouts that, he obviously throws on spawning pool, and then the Zerg can make any decision they want from there. And with the proxy, even if it's just 1 gateway, it's just really tough. So it was a really cool, very subtle little thing. And then I thought he played the rest of the series really well. And we can talk more about it, but I'm looking at this screen and I see James Banks is literally on the precipice of perhaps one of the best interview moments, I think, in modern history.
It's looking that way. We've got 2 mics. We've got a translator. We've got James.
He looks like an art curator from every James Bond movie I've ever seen.
We're strapped in, fresh from the finals of the International. We think this is going to be just as good. James, show us what you can do.
Stun us.
Thank you, Rich. Comparing it to the International, I can see the irony there. Now, the first thing I want to ask first here is going to be Game 1 with the 6 gate. It was just, you look so confident, so comfortable. It looked like basically every game went to plan, but from that point onwards, did you kind of feel like you had True sussed?
첫 번째 게임부터 이제 6게이트를 하면서 엄청 자신감 있게 이기는 것 같았었는데 자신이 이제 설명한다면 게임이 어떻게 돌아갔나요?
처음에 초롱성이란 맵이 나왔을 때 솔직히 요즘 저그대 프로토스 하면 토스가 되게 안 좋거든요. 초롱성 그 맵에서. 그래서 좀 오히려 저는 자신이 없다 생각해서 좀 올인 빌드를 선택한 거였는데 잘 통한 것 같았어요.
Actually, on the first map, I know that PVZ is really hard on that map, so I actually didn't have any confidence on that map. So I went for an all-in build, but somehow it really worked well against him.
Now, obviously, on game 2, it was a build order win, nicely set there. From that point, he must have just thought, okay, I'm kind of got this now, all going in first favour. But was there any point that he was kind of concerned of what True might pull out the bag? Because we've seen True before do it time and time again, come back from a loss.
두 번째 게임에서는 좀 빌드가 갈려가지고 이기게 됐는데 그때 좀 이길 거를 확신했나요? 아니면 그래도 좀 끝까지 조심해야 되겠다 그런 생각을 했나요?
솔직히 그 빌드는 그냥 많이 쓰는 건 아닌데 그냥 레더에서 가끔 쓰는 거였는데 그냥 첫 판도 이겼겠다 그냥 한번 써봤는데 좀 상대가 눈치를 못 채고 제 앞마당에서 해처리 러시 하려고 하는 것 같아갖고 그때 딱 이겼다라는 느낌이 들었는데 제 질럿이 좀 일찍 잡히는 바람에 좀 불리하겠다 싶었는데 스포닝 풀이 없는 거 보고 이겼다고 확신 들었어요.
Yeah, actually, that build order that I played in the second game, I never really played it in any tournaments. I only played it on ladder. But I thought since I won the first game, I could just try something. And so I played that build order, and I felt like I was sure that I was winning when he tried to, like, I think he didn't really know what happened, and I think he wanted to hatchery rush me, and then I kind of knew that I could win this game. But then my Zealot kind of died too early, but in the end it worked well.
Well, the risk paid off indeed, and the final question I've really got to ask is, he's going to definitely face a Zerg in the finals. Was he holding anything back on that game to save for the finals?
이제 파이널에 올라가서 저그 선수를 만날 건데 일부러 좀 빌드를 숨겼나요? 아니면 뭐 특별히 준비한 게 있나요? 결승을 위해?
딱히 준비한 건 없고 전 오히려 방태수 선수가 제일 잘한다 생각해서 좀 필살기라는 필살기 같은 거 좀 썼던 것 같고 이제 저 결승 가면 7판 4선이기 때문에 그냥 편하게 하려고 생각 중이에요.
I don't have anything special prepared for the finals. I actually thought True is the most, like, the biggest enemy to face on this tournament, and so I kind of used all my special strategies on him. But the finals, I think I'm just gonna go confident and really relaxed into those games, and just try my best.
Well, we will see first in the finals now. We're going to go and hand it back to Richard and the guys on the analyst desk to see what they thought of that.
Wow.
Yeah, man. There was some emotion there. We saw the smile that broke through. And also we heard a belch, didn't we, earlier?
Yes, that was Huck
That was
that
Huck.
burped, though, during the James Banks segment where he predicted
right.
this series.
I did hear something about this. Everyone was laughing, apparently. So.
See, it's moments like that where it's like, I'm glad we can have a chuckle that all it was Huck burping, and then that's what we laughed. But like some of the conversations I've had when I didn't think the mic was on,
Yeah.
you know, like that would be really bad.
It's all fun and games when it's a bodily function.
Yeah.
Not quite so much when, for example, some of the things.
And just a
Stefano's
burp
been
too. Like
talking
of the things you could do with your body, a burp is one of the more like, oh, boys will be boys. But can you imagine if he just absolutely annihilated his pants with just a huge fart? Then we'd be like, Huck is gross. That's disgusting. And we need to check him for infection or something. Like, that'd be bad. But enough about that. Let's talk about that interview. Actually, let's even skip that because that was pretty...
It was the answers that we expected. He does know all the names of the units, though. We established that.
Stefano was having a chuckle because he's like, tell me about game 2. He's like, well, I've never tried it. And I knew that I was going to win when I saw that he hadn't built a spawning pool, basically. But strategy-wise, I did like to see on Terraform, it was interesting, and Huck talked a little bit about this, and again, they're in the middle of a cast, they can't talk too long about this, but having that drone scout, if you do go Forge first, especially on a map that has gold bases like that, you're actually in a really bad spot. So it was kind of a commanding moment there when he went Gateway first, and it still allows for True to have kind of the ability to dictate where the game goes from there, but I think because he was down 0-2, he was a little bit wary of pushing the boundary. Like we've seen a lot of Zergs do a proxy hatch at a gold base, proxy hatch even at the natural of the Protoss and really throw him off. But he did not want to get into. He had been cold. He had been like afraid of First's ability to dive deep into the Protoss abyss. I feel like First is like the madman. He's like, you want to never make another base again? That's fine. Let's do this. I'll have 14 probes for 45 minutes. I don't even care. And like. I think at that time, True was like, oh my god. But from there, actually, and I like this comment too from the casters, they were talking about how First is a cheesy as crap Protoss, but in that third game he showed he knows how to do the mid and late game quite well. Like every time True tried to do something to equalize and have a fight, the force fields were on point, he would recall back, and the oracles, the multitasking was good.
I noticed Stefano's got his notepad.
Yeah,
here we go. Show him.
Did you take notes?
He's
Look at
capable.
that.
He's capable of holding a pen at the
He
moment.
can write when he sleeps. It's amazing.
I wanted to focus on the oracles, and that's something we don't see a lot in the game. Usually the Protoss will open with oracles, he will kill a few drones, and he will lose them in the first 15 minutes, right? At some point he will just sacrifice it to kill 4 extra drones or something. But First made it so they stay alive all game long, and they were a constant threat, and he had to put extra spores, and every time the spores died, he come back, he kills a few more drones. And I think, like, I saw the kill count, it was about 35 kills on the 2 oracles.
Yeah.
That's like an investment, 500 minutes or 500 resources early on. And all game long, you have that threat and all those kills. I think it's like the oracles helped him so much in that game. Like, we don't see them actually killing everything, but like the amount of damage they do, like, slowly over the time. It's actually a big deal.
What do you think about, too, he never made a spore caller at the third base. Now, I know with 2 oracles, you can let the shields go away and still kill like 5.
I think it's because he had the 2 queens on the third base. And he didn't expect First to create a second or a third oracle.
It was
He
even
lost
a third
one, right?
oracle, yeah, he lost one.
Yeah, so like you see only one oracle, you like I have 2 queens, it's gonna be okay. There's no risk, but yeah, making that second oracle helped him a lot.
But they kept coming back, and he never made a spore caller. Do you think he was just at that point
I
like,
think
well,
it has been killed. Like he made a spore on the third base.
Did he at the third base?
Oh, no, the main base was killed. And
He had a main and natural. I know that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think it's a mistake. I mean, it's such a little investment for the Zerg. He puts 1 spore and he's safe, but he just, I don't know, in this position, it's too much of a risk, like, to risk all the game and the tournament just on this little thing, just for 75 minerals and 1 drone.
Yeah.
I don't understand like this kind of
That's what I was thinking too. Like he had 3 or 4 wandering queens, so I think somewhere in his head he was like, well, they already killed 8 drones, and I have these queens. If I make a spore caller, I'm compounding on that mistake. But because he kept them alive and they kept coming back, it made that decision
exactly
look
like
erroneous.
no more game, no more situation. This would work. This kind of thinking, because like on the long term, it won't be there. The oracle will die at some point.
Yeah.
But only like this never happened. Like you don't see it happening
alive.
a lot. So yeah.
So just a few final thoughts about True before we go to break. I mean, obviously disappointing. It's always disappointing to lose, but in the grand scheme of things, I mean, just what does it really mean for him?
He got. I mean, this is where the term is usually used with a lot more venom, but he did get pro-tossed a little bit in this series, where it's like, Huck was saying, I like seeing different builds each game. That's true, and that was awesome. But on the flip side, the poor Zerg was just getting. I don't think he comes away from this saying like he got outplayed in the traditional sense. He got outplayed in the series overall. The game plan of First was a lot better, but he's going to look back on this. Like if you were to ask him to do, like if his team was like, yo, we need the D-Pix blog needs you to make a blog for this weekend. Can you talk about your experience at Gfinity? He'd be like, yeah, let me talk about, Protoss is terrible. I hate them. He'd get really angry really quick because all 3 of these games was just him being like, come on, like I did this thing, and then he's already doing that other thing. Like each time, the 6th gate, it was just completely hidden. Yeah. He's a mass Ling kind of guy. So again, I say Protoss because a lot of people use it kind of flippantly, but if you look at it, it's actually kind of nice. First knows that he's like a Ling-heavy Zerg, and if that's the case, a 6 gate or 7 gate's going to be very strong against you. He says he just practiced on ladder, and I was like, oh, it's so elegant and beautiful that he baited with the probe, and he had the... He was just like, I just tried it. It's like, okay, congratulations.
I feel like True was actually just basically lost in these games. Like,
yeah.
He made you like on the last map, Terraform. He made like a bunch of Zerglings, like 40 Zerglings, to attack, no upgrades. Like he had no future plan on the long game. Like he had no plan at all. So much economy, so much drones, no upgrades, no tech, no roaches, and I don't like. Where are you going with that? You kill the third base, maybe. Like lucky, if you are lucky, you're gonna kill it. Yeah. But after that, you kill it. What happens? He just stuck. Nothing.
It's a really good point. And he had late roaches. Like there was a scary moment there where first push into the natural where there's 5 spine crawlers coming in. There's 4 queens. Like if he loses the mothership core there, he actually just loses the game. If he can't recall out of the situation, he's just flat out dead. But even then, to Stefano's point, those were late roaches coming out. Like he had map control Zerglings that failed to cancel a third. They failed to stop this push all the way up into his natural. And now he's making panic 5 spine crawlers, extra queens, and more Zerglings. So yes, the recall out at first glance looks like a win for the Zerg, but actually he had done so much damage to his economy in conjunction with what those oracles were doing that he was actually completely put back at that point in time. And to Stefano's point, like it's just weird to be like, okay, Protoss these days are going Blink, Stalker, Sentry. I'm going to mass links. Like, that's got to be my answer. Like, that seems kind of weird.
Well, look, thanks a lot for your thoughts, gentlemen. I'll try not to snigger next time you say D picks. It's just every time you do that, I just think of Destiny. Bro. It's not a good look. So, thanks a lot, guys. We're going to go to a break now. It's not going to be a long one. And then we're going to get into the other semi-final between Snoot and Departure. So, it's going to be 5 minutes. We'll see you then.
Going in for it. He's trying to take down the spine crawler. He's going for the queen. There are not a lot of units. The drones coming off the mineral line. That's never a good sign. He is 8 ahead right now. He can lose a few, but the spine crawler goes down.
He's the biggest victim, by the way, in this game right now. Oh my god. Get out of there. Get out of there. It's all starting. There goes the Goblok. He's got no idea where to run.
Chains that you pull away. I feel the fear when you look at me.
Check this out.
You wanna rub my boner?